Welcome to the Dogwood Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Cumby, and today we're doing something a little different. In 2024, we're going to do a spotlight on local businesses, and today our first guest is Ashton Wells with Five Freckle Canine. Well, hey, Ashton.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Well, when Brian kind of floated this idea, I was like, well, I know who our first guest has to be.
Right?
Obviously. For those of you who are listening and don't know, this is Ashton, and she is the owner of Five Freckle Canine, which is just connected to Dogwood in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
So I guess if you can talk about how you're connected to Dogwood and why we even know each other.
Yeah. I guess it goes back to like 2019-ish, I think. I was working at a local vet clinic here and hired your husband, Chase, to work with me with the dogs. And my husband, Nick, is a videographer, audio guy, and he did a video promoting my training program, and we posted it on Facebook. And because Chase worked with me, you saw it on Facebook,
right?
And was like, hey, this was actually a really good video. And so then, I don't remember the exact date, but then Nick got a job here working at Dogwood, and Chase still works with me, and it was just kind of all tied together. And my dad knows Brian, and they go way back in the Baptist church circles, and yeah, we've worked pretty closely, both officially and as friends ever since.
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny that like just a work relationship has turned into like our families being like intrinsically connected.
Definitely. Everybody just like assumes we're together all the time, everywhere. Which is not wrong.
We all see each other at least multiple times a week. So
definitely. We share a lot of interests and
Well, tell us a little bit about your background and what you do and how Five Freckle came to be.
Yeah, so this goes back, I guess, a little bit further. I was teaching English at a small university in North Georgia, and but I have always worked with dogs, like in I guess, a kennel capacity or a doggy daycare capacity since I was like 16. It was always like a summer job, a fun way to make money when I wasn't teaching or when I wasn't in school. I have worked with dogs since I was 16, but I pursued being a teacher and teaching English. And then I guess it was 2013. Summer break, I was working at a vet clinic in North Georgia, and I did the opening shift. So I got there at 6 a.m. And I walked up to unlock the door, and there was this little puppy in a cardboard box, and that was my June bug. And oh my gosh, she was so cute. Like it was a cardboard box that was open at the top, but big enough where she couldn't get out. And so I was like, what is this? And I leaned over, and she was just like looking up at me, and
little baby June.
And I was like, oh no, because I was living in a tiny apartment. Dogs were allowed, but it was like a $500 pet fee and all this stuff. So I didn't need a dog, but there you go. So she came home with me, and I quickly realized, I had like sweet, biddable labs growing up that didn't really take a lot of training, beyond the basics. But June is an Australian Shepherd and a bunch of other things. So I quickly realized she was a lot more dog than I had ever had. And so I enrolled her in an obedience class, I enrolled us in an obedience class. And I found it was a training facility. They did dog sports. They did boarding and things like that. So I enrolled her in a class there, and I walked into that class, and I was like, this is amazing. It scratches my teacher itch. I get to learn and things like that, but also just surrounded by dogs. So the next holiday, I actually got a part-time job with them, and just the owner of that facility took me under her wing and started teaching me things and kept bugging me about coming to work for her full-time. And I kind of snubbed my nose at her. I was like, I'm a professor. I am a professor. Yeah, like I have a master's degree. I can't give it up. But then finally she was like, you're a teacher. How much do you actually make? And it was pitiful at the time. I was an adjunct instructor, no health benefits, like nothing. And so I told her, and she was like, baby, you'd make double that if you came to work for me.
Right.
So I was like, oh, okay, that changes things.
Right.
Deal. So yeah, I made the switch in, I think, 2015 to full-time dog training and just grew my skills and all this stuff. And then in 2017, I believe, late 2017, I got a job here building a training program at a local vet's office, and just tried to grow a program there, working in the kennel there. And then June of 2020, the pandemic hit.
Yep.
And veterinary medicine and kennel work, it was just a really rough time.
Yeah.
Like, it was bad.
Yeah. I remember during all of that being so concerned because, they were telling everybody what was considered like important and what was necessary, I think is the words they were using. But Chase and I were like, well, is vet work going to be deemed necessary?
Right.
Like, am I going to just not get to work until they decide to open back up the country? Like,
right.
What is that going to look like? It was crazy.
It was, yeah. And yeah, you're right. We were deemed essential workers.
Essential,
yeah.
There we go.
Essential workers, yeah. And we were, but then also, it was a weird time to be in the animal care world because everybody was home and getting pets.
Right.
But the medical care side of it, the doggy daycare side of it, because everybody was home, nobody was bringing their dog to boarding or doggy daycare.
Right.
And so like the vet side of the hospital was doing better than it normally has. But then, the side that I was in charge of, we were having to cut hours, and it was just super stressful. And so I made the probably not so bright decision to leave that permanent job with benefits and start a business, dog training. But it worked out. I mean, it's something that I love to do, and I have a great support community here. I have a lot of friends that have dogs. And so when I quit the regular job and started Five Freckle, I had maybe 2 clients, and it just wasn't a lot, and I was worried about it, but it was, less stressful than dealing with all the other stuff. And then those 2 clients told their friends, and those clients told their friends, and it just grew. And then I got to the point where I was like, okay, I have too many clients for myself. And that's when I was finally able to go back to Chase and say, all right, we're ready. And then we gradually worked him in. And so now we have 2 full-time trainers and lots of big plans.
Yeah, for sure. Lots of big plans. I remember when you first started doing Five Freckle and Chase was like, Ashton's doing it. She's doing her own thing. And I was like, that's awesome. That's really cool. And he was like, I'm going to do it too. And I was like, okay, cool.
Let's pump the brakes.
Yeah,
let's think logically.
That's one of my favorite things about the dynamic between the 4 of us is just how much like you and Chase are very similar in a lot of ways, and then me and Nick are very similar in a lot of ways. But then in other ways, you and me are more similar, and then Nick and Chase are more similar. And I just remember him being so excited and being like, "Oh yeah, like she's gonna do this and she's gonna get it going, and then I'm gonna start training part time, but I'm gonna keep my other jobs though. Like we have money, and then eventually I'll like switch over to doing full time." And I was like, hold up. And I was like, you are really assuming that this is going to take off. And, to his credit, he was right.
Yeah. It worked out. Fingers crossed, but it worked out. Yeah.
Goodness.
And it was kind of scary. I had, when I worked at the place in North Georgia, I saw the struggles that she had kind of owning her own business. And I swore up and down I would never want to own my own business.
Right.
And now that I have done it, obviously it comes with a lot of headaches and struggles, but like the autonomy is great. You have nobody to answer to but yourself for your successes and your failures. And then, you get the chance, and this is what I've loved about working with Chase is we've really had an opportunity to build a team that works together well and communicates. And so I've been really blessed by that, and in the sense that like I can afford to be picky in who I've hired and only bring on people that I really love working with and that value the company as much as I do. And I know that that's like incredibly rare.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Well, tell us how Five Freckle became Five Freckle as far as the name goes, because I think that's the question that a lot of people ask me when I talk about it.
Yes.
And of course, I know the answer, but.
Yes, and that's totally fair. People are like, Five Freckle canine. So my June, she's the one that kind of changed the course of my life and made me become a dog trainer, or at least made me seek out that. So she she has 5 little freckles on her nose, and I just sing this stupid little song to her sometimes. So like she'll be like minding her own business, sitting on the bed, and I'm like, little Miss Five Freckle sitting on the bed, it's like a stupid thing. So when I was looking for a name for the training business, I was Googling to make sure, like I would come up with an idea and I would Google it, and there would be another training, business in like Connecticut that already had that name or whatever. And so I was talking to Nick, my husband, about it, and he was like, well, you always call her Little Miss Five Freckle. So what about Five Freckle Canine? And I was like, there you go.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep, there you go. So, and June's a sassy little thing. So she's like got that huge ego boost about having a business named after her.
She's so funny. Oh my gosh, I love her.
She's a mess.
Yeah. Well, you talked a little bit about, how your friends that you were already working with told their friends and told their friends, and that's kind of how y'all have grown. What other ways have y'all used to kind of market yourself, and how has that changed from when you first got started to now?
That's a really good question. And I think organic growth, I think it's a good term in the sense of like we don't have a huge marketing budget, but it does still take a lot of effort. And so I think one thing, or let's say 2 things that really work in our favor. It's really easy to make cute content that features dogs. Like, not many people are going to look at a cute picture of a dog and not have some sort of feeling towards it, right? So that's worked in our favor. And I think another thing is our kind of training philosophy is very relationship based. And so I think both Chase and I have great relationships with our personal dogs, but we're also one of our skills is that we create relationships with clients and their dogs. And I think that's something that, it's hard to explain how that's marketable, but people are drawn to that.
Yeah.
And so I think that in those 2 things are the easiest parts of what we do is, if somebody hires us to train their dog and they have a great experience and they know that we are interested in them and we want them to succeed and we like them and they like their dog, that if they have that positive experience, then they're more willing to tell other people about it.
Yeah, for sure. We actually just did a podcast, I guess 2 episodes ago, about the importance of those relationships with clients and, also internally with your employees and all that kind of good stuff. And I think that's one of the things that we kind of harped on was taking the opportunity to just show interest and care about your clients in ways that they might not expect you to.
Definitely.
Like Chase and I, he has a client that they just recently had a baby, and so obviously you know the story, but they needed somebody to come help with the dog because the wife got put back in the hospital.
Right.
And so they called us at like 7 o'clock, and they were like, I'm so sorry, but you're the only person I knew to call. And I mean, Chase and I packed up and headed to their house and got the dog and brought her home and kept her for a couple of days so that they could, take care of their health and their baby and all that kind of good stuff. And that's not a thing that he got paid for. Like, that's not something that we would ask them to pay for anyways, but that's just, part of being a community is trying to help out each other when you can and, know that it comes back around at some point.
Yeah, 100%. And when your clients feel taken care of and feel a part of your community that you're creating, and I think that's something that Five Freckle and Dogwood definitely have in common is the relationships with your clients, but also the relationships with other local businesses and other entities, I guess, in your community. We have good relationships with Montgomery Humane Society and a lot of the other local rescues, Helping Shepherds of Every Color, Little Star Chihuahua Rescue, all of them. Like, we have great relationships with them. We have good relationships with a lot of the local vet clinics and hospitals and a lot of the vets. And we have ongoing conversations with these people about how we as trainers can help them do their job and vice versa. And then I'm also a part of like a local women owned business.
The Gathering.
Yeah. Like, and which is Elizabeth does, right? Yeah. So, building relationships there, and a lot of those aren't necessarily dog related or even animal care related, but how can we help each other as business owners? How can we share each other's events? How can we, anything like that? So I think that's something that both Dogwood and Five Freckle really value is that community building and relationship building. And that's, again, it's like not necessarily a part of your marketing budget, you know, like, yeah, sometimes I meet with somebody from a different organization, I'll buy them coffee. Yeah, that $7 comes out of my marketing budget, but that's not really what it's about, right? It's just, so that kind of organic style marketing, it takes work to build those relationships, and sometimes the benefits aren't necessarily immediate. But when you pour into your community tends to pour into you.
Yeah, I think just today you made a post about the event that's happening in Wetumpka in March that has a whole bunch of different dog organizations that are doing different things there.
Yeah, like there's 3 others, and one of those businesses also offers obedience training, and but like they're friends of ours, and community over competition, and there's plenty of work to go around.
Yeah, well, and especially in y'all's specific niche of what you do, everybody trains a little differently. Everybody has a different philosophy, and one philosophy is not going to work for every person. So it's so much better to be able to keep those good relationships and be able to say, we weren't a good fit with each other, but I know these other guys down the road that they would be great with you. Yeah. And just be able to have those good relationships instead of always trying to battle it out.
100%. Yeah, it's so helpful.
For sure. Well, I know we talked a little bit about social media and that kind of thing, and you and I have talked a lot about how much you enjoy doing the social media. So why has that been important for y'all and for your marketing?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's fun to take pictures of dogs and post pictures of dogs and get those reactions right. And
Teeth Out Tuesday.
Yes, yeah. Teeth Out Tuesday, Tongue Out Tuesday, Wet Dog Wednesday. Like there's all those fun little trends, and there's but it's just it's been such a good mix for me of both a creative outlet, because now you have like reels and all these different things that you can be creative with, and you can edit the videos in certain ways. So it's a fun creative outlet. I love taking pictures of dogs. I get made fun of for the sounds that I make to get the head tilts.
You are the best at making the noises.
I got some good ones. I'm not going to do them here, but I got some good ones. But yeah, and so like it's fun to get those pictures. It's fun to get people's reactions to those pictures. But it also provides an outlet. Again, relationship. It provides an outlet for people to, or a way for people to see what we're doing, what our clients are working on, the results of what we've been working on. And then our clients like to see their dogs on our page. Like, that's where we get the shares and things like that. So that's been really fun. And then again, building community. We love to use social media to highlight other trainers. A lot of trainers kind of moonlight as authors. They write training books and things. We highlight podcasts about topics that we feel strongly about. We have our blog, and so a lot of times we share, we call it Underbite Journal. So a lot of times we share what we've been writing about. Chase and I both do articles for that. We have guest authors, so there's our local little community here, and then there's also our little online community where we've made friends with other trainers, and we share their words of wisdom, and hey, this is a really cool way to teach recall that we've never heard of before. And instead of saying, either pawning it off as our idea or saying, well, our way's better, hey, this is another tool in your toolkit that you can use, and bring those trainers in.
Yeah, for sure. I know. So Chase's 2-year with Five Freckle was last week, I think.
That's crazy.
And so you made that post about it being his anniversary and stuff. And of course, every time that you post something like that, all of the people that just like come out from all the different people that he's trained with and make their little posts about Chase is so great.
Yeah.
Like he did this, and this for my dog. It just makes my heart so happy. That's just from a personal side, because I know Chase is great and I think he's
Right.
the best, but it makes me really happy to see that other people have really valued him.
It confirms that. Yeah.
Right.
But they do. They adore him. And that's, like even so, talking about with other trainers, like Chase is really passionate about pursuing, continuing education. And so he's taking that course with a very well-known and well-renowned trainer in Canada. And he's made an impression on her. Like, she adores him. And she commented on that post, like, Five Freckle is lucky to have him. And I was like, I know.
Yeah, I'm trying to convince Chase. He's not really a world traveler. He doesn't have many places he wants to go, but I think I might be able to convince him to go to Canada just to go see Sue.
Yeah, you'll just have to do a day at Sue's kennel, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Well, I know earlier you talked about lots of plans for the future. I know you don't want to tell everyone all of your secrets, but where do you see the business going in the next couple of years?
Yeah, well, we have big plans. I think you mentioned earlier, like, Chase and I are alike in a lot of ways, and one of those ways is we're very much both dreamers.
No way.
So we got lots of plans, and thank the Lord that we married realists and people who can kind of keep our feet on the ground and make us think things through.
Right.
But yeah, so we are working on building a facility, and we have lots of big plans for that. Our first plant where Nick and I are going to live at the facility. We'll have a little house in the back. So our first plan is to get that set up.
Right. Need somewhere to live.
Need somewhere to live. That's, again, dreamer and realist. That's great. I'm excited for the training center, but we need a place to live.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. So that's the first step. And then we want to build an indoor training center. It'll be a very large, temperature controlled room that we can offer classes, private lessons. It's, right now in the park, we're having to cancel all of our lessons if it rains, if it's too cold, if it's too hot.
We had 2 weeks in a row this past month. Yeah. The week where it just froze, and then the very next week it was raining week. And Chase and his sweet little heart was just like, I can't do anything.
Yeah, like, what am I supposed to do?
He's like, I can't wait to get to the facility.
Yeah. And again, I'm with him. Like, I'm right there. We just need a facility. Yeah. It gives us back a lot of control over that. And so, and again, like the business side of things, when it rains, we don't have an income.
Right. Yeah.
Our clients can't control the weather, so we can't charge them if it rains, and so that will bring us a lot more control and a lot more opportunities to continue our training. So that will be really good. And we want to add a lot of group classes. We want to add workshops. We want to do, again, community events. Like, I have this dream of bringing in a lot of the veterinarians in our area and hosting like a little finger food event where we can all get together and talk about how can the training world and the veterinary world work together for the health and well-being of the dogs, So anyway, we have a lot of big plans for a training center. We also want to do some sports. We want to do a dock diving pool because, that sport's close to me and Chase's heart.
Yep.
We love taking our dogs swimming. We want to do an agility field. We want to have like a walking trail, an off-leash area. Like, we got big plans. And we're moving in that direction. We are. It's going to be a while. The realist is right in that situation. We got lots of little steps we got to take care of, but it's exciting.
For sure. Super exciting. And Five Freckle's not that old. Like, Brian and I were just talking about that earlier because sometimes, we're not that old. Dogwood's not that old. We turned 5. We turned 5 in January. And that's one thing that I have to always remind myself, but also remind Brian and everyone else that works with us, because I think people look at how quickly we've grown and they go, oh, like, that's a big thing.
Right.
And it's a big thing, and we're so grateful for it. But we're only 5 years old.
Yeah.
We can't compare ourselves to the people that have been around for 30 years. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard because, especially when you're in it, like, because you've been at Dogwood from the very beginning.
Right.
And so, like, when you do it every single day, it feels like it went by so quickly. Like, you just said Chase's 2-year anniversary, and I'm like, oh my gosh. At the same time, like, it feels like forever.
Right.
So it's really hard to kind of find that balance. It is to be like, it's okay that we're not where we want to be, because I think Five Freckle's 3, because I had only done it for a year before I hired Chase.
Right.
so it's hard to kind of put that into perspective, but it's also a good reminder of I have time. We're moving. We're not stagnating.
Right.
We're making strides. We're growing. So, yeah, big steps, but also got to remember those baby steps too.
For sure. Yeah, I know Chase and I are very excited about moving that way because obviously we're trying to move towards where the land's at and all that kind of good stuff for his job, but also just to get out and be somewhere on our own because we both grew up here, so it'll be nice to kind of do our own thing. But Chase is so excited, and he's like, we should start looking at houses. We need to start doing this and this to get the house ready and all this stuff. And I'm like, yep, I agree with you. One step at a time, bud.
Baby
one step at a time.
Yeah, and that's the danger because this, but Chase and I have like a Monday meeting where we just making sure we're on the same page. A lot of our, we're writing some online programs. So a lot of that happens on Mondays.
I did format that last night, by the way.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Lauren's our editor for a lot of our stuff because that's just, wife of a small business person. Right. I appreciate that. But so we do that. But the danger of two dreamers getting together once a week is we get excited and we develop all these plans and then we go home to our spouses and they're like, that's amazing. Have you thought about how that's going to happen?
Right. Yeah. That's the nightly or the Monday night conversation that comes back. That's why we all four have to get together every so often.
Yes. And just make sure we're all on the same page. We're all communicating.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any other advice or tips that you would give to somebody that's trying to take their passion and kind of turn it into their full-time gig as we close out?
I could definitely talk forever about that, but if I could boil it down, I would say community is your best friend. So build those relationships, seek out people who are in the same world as you and that you can bounce ideas off of and that can give you advice. Like I have so many trainer friends. Like I'm still in touch with one of my training mentors in North Georgia, and we talk every so often about dog training, but also she has her own little, Nick always gets on to me for saying little. It's not little. It's not a little company. It is little company, but
Right.
But she has her own training business in Georgia. And so we bounce ideas off of each other, but also seek relationships and people who are your world adjacent.
Right.
And that's going to help you a lot. I mean, our relationships with shelters and vets have done more to grow our business than almost anything else.
Yeah.
And approach them genuinely, approach them, don't have any ulterior motives. I mean, of course you do, you want to grow your business, but approach them in a way of how can I help you as much as you help me, right? That's what community is about. It's not about I'm going to talk to you so that you can help my business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think about like our relationship with For Healthy Pets. Like
absolutely.
We are constantly telling people like, this is where we get our food from. This is where we go to get treats. Like we trust them. We trust their opinions. They have really great stuff. They're local, like all this stuff, and vice versa. They are always telling people about us.
Always sing our praises and Teresa has become a good friend of ours through that business relationship.
Right.
But finding people that you can trust their opinion and that relationship. There's also Bryant's Buddies, who's the pet sitter. We've become good friends, and she's actually reached out to me for some business advice. Like she was wondering about how to do gift cards, and so I helped her with that and recommend her all the time. And then Dog on the Run with Hallie.
That's
she
a
does
fun one.
The mobile dog gym. She has her. But I had a client recently who she has 2 litter mate puppies and was struggling to exercise them, and then she had to have foot surgery. And so I was like, you're going to need more than I can give you. Let me bring in one of my buddies. Yeah. And it's been great. And then, Hallie is also a client of mine that I work with her dog, Moose. And so
I love that.
Moose. Oh, it so suits him too. It so suits him. But and then, any time that you have the ability to, I'm going to call it make friends instead of network. But that's been a huge boost. And I think anybody starting out, if you if you feel like you're alone, or if you are making decisions and you feel like you're just by yourself and you don't know who to lean on, go volunteer, go to events, go to, your other local businesses, even if they have nothing to do with your industry.
Yeah.
You can learn a lot from them. So that would be my number one thing.
Yeah. Well, and just having that community, even if, they're not even business owners or anything,
Absolutely.
like our community of people that, champion Five Freckle and cheer on you and Chase and all that are not clients. They're not dog adjacent. They're just people that are our friends and our family that love us.
And that show up when we need them. And they know that we'll show up when they need us.
Yeah. So important. So important.
Yeah.
Well, this was really special to me to have one of my best friends be the first one on our small business.
I'm
and
happy
obviously,
to be here.
And Five Freckle obviously means a lot to me and to our family and to Dogwood. So thank you so much for being the first one.
Thanks for having me.
Little spotlight. Sorry, not little. It's not
It's
little.
not little.
Right.
We can have a whole nother podcast about, women's ability to choose words. We're allowed to take up space.
Right. Oh, goodness. Yeah, that's a whole new podcast.
Yeah, different topic.
Well, as we wrap up today, I just want to remind all of you to go subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. If you're feeling real generous, you could even share it or post on social media, leave us a review. All of those things really help us to reach the right people, and we would just really appreciate that. If you'd like to connect with Dogwood further, you can head on over to our website, dogwoodmediasolutions.com, and that's the best way for you to connect with us. You can find our socials there. You can contact us via email, all that kind of stuff. So if you need anything from us, the website is the best place for you to go. Thanks for joining us today, and until next time, happy marketing!